Hello. There surely have been a lot of live journals of late. I really wanted to read one, uh, but I couldn't find one that clicked. And I really wanted to have light, bouncy, happy energy. I'd love to say it's solstice and it's here and I feel great. I mean, I think I feel great, but there's still the sense of some kind of a weight, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't feel bad about it, but there's something. I have some friends going through some difficult things, and I know in my heart I take that journey with you. And but that's not going to pull me down. It doesn't work like that. The beauty about being in heart and about serving from there that I found is that it's almost as if the more you give, the more energy you have. It doesn't drain in any way, and that's wonderful. You can get a pleasant tiredness, but it's not like the energy drain when you're trying to do a healing and you feel that your own energies have been tapped. It's not like that because I'm really not running on my own energies here. I mean, not the energies of the body. We tap into something else, something higher, and something, well, I don't want to say holier. Every atom is holy. If only we knew, if only we could see, if only we had that vision. Everything is holy. You know, the dog poop on the lawn is holy too. Everything is holy. It's a matter of perspective and vision. And to the extent that we can see, that we're willing to see, I think will be shown. This is a big thing. We've been coming this solstice and this being not just solstice or just the lunar eclipse, but lining up with the center of the galaxy the way we are, only 2 degrees off. Photon belt, whatever they call it, we're in that energy, and we've been coming more and more into it for a number of years now. But I'm going to say in the last 2 or 3 years especially, it's been very intense. And so, we talk about the no mind and the place of emptiness and silence. We talk about going into heart and stepping out of the mind, because heart is more than able to, I don't know that I want to say process things, but I guess that's what I mean. But when you give it to heart, it's different. Process almost has like a linear sound to it. And heart's just different somehow. It's almost as if it works with your energies in your consciousness, because your consciousness isn't just, for instance, this Teresa Ann body that I wear and the mind that goes with it. There's nothing sacred about the brain, in the sense that you get a new one, you have a new one in every body. And by sacred, I mean as far as being your real identity. It's not there. It's not that. There's nothing in the head, there's nothing in the body that's really you. That's your core or your essence or anything. You just work through that. So, who and what is the you doing the working through? There's the question. And so, to put something in heart, heart has access to the fullness of you. In heart, there is access to all of your embodiments, all of your incarnations that are going on right now, by the way, time being simultaneous. And or maybe you don't, but getting rid of the idea of time as a limit is really wonderful, and it's also useful, because you begin to realize things like um, your present is being influenced by the future just as much as it is the past. And in my recent journal on do we need to know the future, there's the taste of that there, about how the future really is right here in the present with us. If we would just stay in the now, it's right there, it's complete, it's whole, it's spherical or something. So when I don't know what to do with something, when I get a message, let's say, that's really simple, I answer comments and messages right away as heart gives it to me. The answer will just come to me, and I'll do that. And the ones where that answer doesn't come, I put them in heart and I just drop them there. And the intent is that the answer will arise when it arises, and I'll know when that is. And sometimes it's 2 or 3 days or something, and I'm not going back in there and seeing, is it soup yet? I'm not peeking and looking and checking it out. I'm not thinking about it at all. I will often, even generally, forget about it. And it just comes up when it comes up, and then I answer it. But the thing is, heart isn't, it's not like it's doing the linear processing that mind would be doing. We all know how mind works. We're used to living in it. Not quite 24/7, but just might as well be, huh? And so we know how that kind of processing works. But in heart, it not only has access to all of our incarnations, it has access to the subconscious, to the unconscious, to the superconscious, to the higher self, all of that, and to source. And so the work that heart does, and I haven't looked at this before, but it seems to me that the work that heart does is to integrate and work with all of that, and to kind of readjust things and pull in a little of this and a little of that, and do what's necessary to bring forth the highest and the best that can come forth, and bring it to the surface, in this case, in the consciousness of Teresa Ann. But who knows what's been pulled in or called on in order to do that. And who knows what adjustments have had to be made in the meanwhile. And so I'll be going through things, and I'll come upon other things, and I won't realize that all of this is a part of what heart is doing to bring me to where I need to be in order to answer that thing that that message or that question that I put in heart. And so heart processing is entirely different, just like everything else in heart is quite different. And I was just sitting here wishing I could be, as I said, lighthearted for you. But right now, it's like there's a weight, almost a presence, a heaviness, but it's not a darkness. It's not a pain. It could even be light. I mean, light feels that way sometimes when you get an increase of intensity of light, or you come into the presence of a light being who is sufficiently bright. Sometimes it's not so comfortable, it doesn't necessarily feel really great. And I think a lot of times I know what this is. This is an adjustment. We've all received an increment of light, an increased increment of light. And this is just me processing mine in some way. Okay, I'll try that on. Right now, it feels okay. It feels right. Yeah. Interesting. Well, that being the case, then, such things don't take forever to work through as long as we're cooperative, and we don't go running away or taking things personally, thinking that we have personal failings and, oh, we're a screw up and we're just depressed again. We have to keep the mind out of it because the mind doesn't know diddly squat about the new world that we're entering, the new earth we're coming into. The mind is not qualified to make judgments of any kind on it. And so it's really best that we don't listen to whatever it has to say. And if we listen to it, that's okay too. Just don't believe it. You know, the only problem with thought is belief in thought. Other than that, thought is harmless. Okay, interesting. See, and I wouldn't get to know these things if I didn't journal them. I would have continued walking around with that feeling, but I wouldn't have had any of the resolution of coming that much closer to having an understanding and an itchy nose to having an understanding. And you see how it works. It's just like stream of consciousness writing. You know, you just flow. Only the biggest part of the trick is to stay away from the mind. And you have to really do a disconnect because at first we think, well, how can I think? How can I process things? How can any of that go on absent the mind? That doesn't make sense to me. Well, it can. That's all. It just can, you know, and you're not going to find out until you just do it. And at first, you probably won't know too well, am I in heart or am I in mind? But the big thing is don't let mind get in there doing all this evaluation of it. It's pointless and it just distracts you from the now, the beauty of the now. Galactic energy. I think that's what we're feeling here, folks. The eclipsing of the full moon enabled a more than ordinary flow of light. There is programming coming to us from the moon. Thank you very much, moon. You can take a hike anytime. Have you watched They Live yet? It's very good. You know, if you really want to understand what I'm saying about the moon, They Live is very good. And you'll know what the analogy for the moon is when you watch it. Just search for it on YouTube. And I'll put it, you know, I put a link in the last journal where I mentioned it. There's a link right in the transcript. You guys, if you're not sure what I've said, now this is a live journal. This is different. But for the journals where I'm reading a journal, you can go see it word for word on Scribe. Just click over if you want to know, you know, what word I'm using or how something is spelled. It's usually there. I do a good little bit of ad-libbing these days. I used to just read them, but now, you know, I insert sentences in all the time. You'll catch me sometimes because I'll ad-lib a sentence and then in the next paragraph there, you know, that thought will be there, and so, you know, it gets a little awkward, but I'm just much more in the flow of them. It was a really exciting surprise when I was journaling one day to have something click, something kind of important for me clicked, and that was that it used to be that when I was journaling and morning prayers and devotions and all that, this was a most sacred time. It was 2, 3, 4 hours sometimes of the day, and honestly, sometimes it would just, you know, go on. And it would be 6 or 8 hours before that whole cycle would spend itself. But we all go through cycles. There are days when there's none of that, just none. But anyway, the important thing that came together for me was when I was journaling and how I never used to touch anything except to correct a spelling in a journal. It was just sacred the way it was. And then it got to where I would put edits in brackets. And you have to go to the transcripts to see this, you know, and you'll see what the original journal was. And then if you see something in the square brackets, that is when I was working with it later, I added that. And it was some time before I got to where I would do that, because that was my sacred flow and so on. But then it felt right, and so I did it. And you see me now, I freely ad lib all of the time. Um, Wherever I am in the journal, I'll be inserting stuff in the live video that isn't there in what's written. And what came to me was that my daily consciousness has become that journal consciousness. It's become the sacred consciousness, and it's with me most all the while. And boy, is that ever a gift, you know? And we're being accelerated, all of us, into the ability to do this and to go there by these sacred energies that surround us, and this contact with the energies from the center of the galaxy. We have new radiation that's emanating from there that science is very well aware of. They don't know what it is, or it was never there before. There's no understanding of it, but there's the measurement of it. There's actual new radiation. And we can personalize it onto some kind of a god that's made a decision. Okay, I'm going to lift the earth up, and uh, I'm not going to go there. I don't know. I believe that science and religion can be the two pillars in the temple, and they can work side by side, but not religion as it is today. It isn't right. Uh, Look to the native peoples around the planet, wherever you find them, and you will find the sacredness of, let's call it spirituality. I don't think they label their stuff as religion. So let's just say science and spirituality can be two co-equal pillars in the temple, so that you can find there's always a reason in science or physics for something that happens, and that there's also the reason that's in spirituality, and one doesn't invalidate the other. They're just different perspectives, perhaps, on the same thing. So that I have every confidence that walking on water and being light beings and doing all the crazy miracles that are just around the corner for all of us, as in precipitating what we want when we want it, pulling the meal from the air, there's no reason not to. My understanding, and it's very strong in my heart, is that this is just a higher physics. That is all. There is still a quote unquote science, if you will. There is an understanding of it. There is a certain sort of mechanics or function to it. I don't like those words. Those are very 3D words. But we're just looking maybe at fifth or sixth dimensional physics there. And we don't even do a very good job with our 3D physics. It's, as they say, science progresses as the old guard die. And that's about the only way that new ideas are given the freedom to be. And then there's the funding, there's all the typical issues, but don't let it get you down too much. When we spend more than 50% of our energy looking into the negative, we don't do ourselves or the world any favors, because it pulls you down. And as you are pulled down, this is a pulling down on everyone. It's good to know, but to put too much of your energy into it is to give your power over to it, and to accord it too much importance and too much power. We are sacred beings. We are magic. We are majestic. And we are coming into our own. And we'll, like typical humans, we will stumble and bumble our way into a lot of this. I mean, look at the way things are learned here in the journaling. How do you put words to that? It's the linear mind can't do much with it except call it stumbling and bumbling. And that's just one perspective, not one I'd highly recommend. Anyway, I've probably chattered on long enough. My heart's love to you. See you again soon.